All right.
All right. Well, ask me about them, and then
Okay.
we'll edit.
All right. So, my only experience with hide tanning is move these over. My only experience is doing this one, which is a buckskin, and it's like super soft and supple. And then these, which Ryan just brought are the same deer actually, but they're so different in how they feel. And so this is what I want to have you talk about. Like, what's the difference
why
between...
Why are they so different?
Yeah, why are they
all
different
from
colors? Why are they different textures?
Yep.
Why, like, this one
Yep.
is super dense and firm, and this one is medium, and then this one is like, you know,
baby soft
paper, you know. So
yeah, right. Right. Yeah.
So
all the
yeah,
same
what's the
animal.
difference?
So the difference is, in a quick way, we'll kind of group these two together, and then we'll talk, and we'll kind of really separate this one out. Both of these pieces, even though they have really different qualities, are grain on leather, which is what you're going to find in most stores and leather stores. And you'll even see that on tags. It'll say like 100% grain on leather. The grain it's talking about is that top layer of skin, the thing that actually looks like skin. And if you look at your hand or your you know, like you can see the grain of your own skin.
Right.
It means that layer was not removed. And what it does is it provides structure and protection. It can make your leather waterproof, just like it protects the animal. This right here.
Well, first though,
Oh, yeah,
so
you
this
wanna talk about
one,
these?
yeah, like this one is very structured, and then this one is like medium. This one is more supple. So what's the difference?
Okay, great question. So I just did these two pieces in Matt Richards' Traditional Tanners Mastering Bark Tan class, and while both
Ooh, this guy.
This guy right here. This is obviously soft leather, and this is dense leather. And it started from the same animal. I had to cut this deer hide, and they were actually roughly the same size when I started. And so now you can see I've ended up with these radically different sized pieces. So we'll talk about the dense leather. And the dense leather came about where we just limed it, put it in hydrated lime. We got hair off of it. And then, you know, I'm gonna kind of shorten it. There were some other steps in there, but we tanned it and then used acid, in this case vinegar, to swell the hide during the tanning process, and just pumped more oak bark tannin in there. And it made this awesome structurally sound leather that you could use for like the soles of something. And I'm kind of thinking about some uses for this. I might make a arm guard for archery, you know, be perfect for that. So then on the other side, we did a lot more to this piece. And essentially what we're doing with this is, in this we kept that fiber network that's locked inside the fabric of the skin. And that's one thing to understand about leather, is that leather is fabric. It's woven, and the animal wove it for you. So with this piece, what we wanted to do is have that fiber network, but clean out as much of the mucous membranes as possible, which is what will stiffen leather. When you have rawhide, there's so much mucus in there that it turns to glue. And so with this, we did some steps to it to just clean it out. And there was just different processes there, to the point where once we tanned it, and we even tanned it with tannin and salt, which kind of slows the absorption. When we tanned it, we ended up with this wonderfully soft, awesome
so
leather that just kind of
awesome.
like, whee, that we could have different uses for. So,
Yeah.
you know, part of it is deciding what do you want to do with your leather, and then having the knowledge and having the power to take some steps to manipulate the hide to get the qualities you want. So that's another way to understand tanning, is that do a bunch of stuff to the skin to get it to the state that you want it, and then adding the preservative, the tannin from the trees, is what makes that change permanent. Yeah.
So then, what's this one?
So what about this over here? Let's see if we can get...
This one, FYI, I made in Luke McLaughlin's class. Where's our little water bottle? Plug him. Here we go. Holistic Survival School.
So this one is, you could refer to as buckskin, or suede leather. Like commercially, and when you're buying stuff made with this kind of leather, you're going to see it labeled as suede. And you know, most of us are familiar with suede, and you know, in one way we notice, like, oh, not supposed to get it wet. It'll get ruined if you get wet. Well, it doesn't get ruined, but there's just some things you have to do to it in order to keep it in this form. So the type of tanning we do with this kind of leather is called brain tanning, which is just a cool term. And the main things we do to get this quality is we are taking this very same animal, deer. You can do this with other animals, of course. And we are taking that grain layer off. That is kind of the main thing about buckskin, is we got to get this layer off. And when we get that layer off, that epidermis and grain layer, what you get is the dermis layer. And so once you have that, that's the really stretchy, wonderful fiber network. And we do some things to that to get it to the right state. And then we add softener. We add a little tannin, or we add smoke at the end, something to kind of preserve it. But then the main thing, the main tanning agent in this is the softener. And so traditionally, you use animal brains. Yay! But
we're going to have access to some during our workshop too, for people who want
brains,
to.
Yeah. Or you can use
that.
eggs, or you can use lecithin and oil. So different things to achieve the pretty much the exact same thing.
You basically need an emulsifier, right?
Emulsified oils,
okay.
Yeah, and water. And when you add that, what it does is it kind of wraps itself around that fiber network, and it keeps the fibers from wanting to rejoin back together to kind of stiffen and turn back to glue. And so once you do that, the main thing is you wring it out. That's the big thing about buckskin, is it's got to be like, it's that wringing process, like stretching and wringing, that keeps it soft.
So if we do, if someone chooses grain on, a lot of the labor of hide tanning is reduced.
Much reduced.
Okay, because I remember like the process of wringing this and then stretching this was very labor intensive.
Yeah.
And the day I was doing it, it was rainy and humid, and so it wasn't drying. But you can't you can't stop stretching
leave it alone
until
you can't leave
all
it
the
alone.
moisture's out. And I remember like the sun had set and we were all still like, oh my god, keep
build
pulling,
a fire, build a fire. Yeah, it's kind of this like arduous process. There are some steps you can take, like if you do have to go do something, you know, you can take some steps to kind of.
That's what community's for, right?
You know, that's what community's for. So this is like community labor of love leather.
Yeah.
And I would argue too, this is a labor of love too, but it's just different. It's just at the end of the process, what's really doing the softening work is the things you do before and the tannins themselves.
Okay.
Like the tree tannins penetrating all the way through the skin is what is doing most of the work.
Okay.
So the labor part of it, I would say, for this is actually getting the tannins.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like tannins are the gold, you know, of tanning leather, obviously, because we call it tanning leather. But that's, for me, procuring tannins when you're doing natural tannins and not chemical stuff is like, you know, this stuff is what trees want. It's what plants want. It's what keeps pests away. It keeps the trees alive. It's what's in their bark in this case. And so getting that is more of the intense process, whether you're stripping a tree or chopping bark up, boiling it, simmering it. That's the more labor intensive. Whereas this, the softening part is like your muscles and your community are doing the work, which is, this is what's so wonderful about buckskin, is it, you know, it literally is best done with other people.
Yeah, totally. That's why, you know, I have these beautiful hides and I know how to tan them, but I'm like, who wants to come over and tan some hides with me? Because I don't want to take this on by myself. So that's part of what led to this. Is I love hide tanning, and I love working with just like all the elements of this land. So the deer and the bark and the smoke and the creek and everything that goes into this. But it to me is a community effort. And so I was like, hey, Ryan, you want to tan some hides / want to teach a group so that we can have a lot of people doing it together?
Yeah, I mean, the best way of like continuing to do something like this that you love is to have other people come do it and teach it, and it spreads a great ancestral practice, and just gets more people to know how to do it. And there's really nothing quite like going from a sloppy mess of hair and an organ. I mean, you are working with this animal's organ, and it brings a lot of gratitude with it. But you go from this really stinky thing that is clearly just off of an animal, and then at the end, when you hold this in your hands, when it's fully dry and soft, I haven't really found the words to describe that feeling, but it is one of the greatest feelings. Yeah.
We got some glam shots of the leather in this video.
Yeah, nice.